Hello and welcome to the DSR Daily. I'm David Rothkopf, joined by Riley Fessler. How are you doing, Riley?
Not too bad.
Not too bad. It's a Monday, so that's better than can be expected. And Minna Stein. How are you, Minna?
For a Monday, I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's setting the bar lower. That's better. That's the way to handle it. Riley, what's the first story you're kicking off the week with?
The Canadian election.
Yay!
On the final day of campaigning, Canadian leaders Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre addressed the nation somberly after a tragic attack killed 11 people at a Filipino festival in Vancouver. The election, heavily influenced by Donald Trump's tariffs and rhetoric toward Canada, remains closely contested, with Carney's Liberals holding a slight lead over Poilievre's Conservatives. Carney canceled some campaign events out of respect for the tragedy, while both leaders expressed condolences to the Filipino community. As Canadians prepare to vote, polls show a tight race that could determine whether the Liberals retain power outright or require coalition support.
Yeah, and, Donald Trump couldn't stay out of it. So this morning, Monday morning, he sent a True Social post. Good luck to the great people of Canada. Elect the man who has the strength and wisdom to cut your taxes in half, increase your military power for free to the highest level in the world, have your car, steel, aluminum, lumber, energy, and all other businesses quadruple in size with zero tariffs or taxes if Canada becomes the cherished 51st state of the United States of America. No more artificially drawn line from many years ago. Look how beautiful this landmass would be. Free access with no border, all positives with no negatives. It was meant to be. This is all in caps. America can no longer subsidize Canada with hundreds of billions of dollars a year that we have been spending in the past. It makes no sense unless Canada is a state. And of course, immediately people reacted saying that the Liberal Party, which is the Carney Party, ought to be printing this up and circulating it widely. They won't have to, because we live in an era where you don't have to print stuff up. Trump just, stuck a stake through the heart of Pierre Poilievre because, seriously, the people of Canada have made it very clear they don't want to be a state. And him saying this is the candidate who will support that is a death blow. Carney will win. Canada will not be a state. You heard it here first. Minna?
More than 100 people were arrested in a DEA-led raid on an illegal underground nightclub in Colorado Springs, where authorities found drugs, guns, and signs of prostitution and violent crimes. Among those detained were undocumented immigrants, several active-duty service members, and individuals with outstanding warrants, with immigration authorities and the Army launching further investigations. The operation, involving over 300 agents, was part of a broader federal crackdown on immigration and crime, amid claims linking the nightclub to violent gangs.
It's a terrible story. The linking to gangs thing has got such a loaded political component to it that you've got to take that kind of stuff with a grain of salt. Doesn't mean it's not true. But a lot of things in this country are being politicized, up to and including, by the way, the NFL draft, where the president intervened in the NFL draft and said that the fact that Deion Sanders' son Shedeur Sanders had not been drafted in the early rounds was a huge mistake. And this morning, the president's idiot press secretary said, but he was drafted later, just a few rounds after the president said that. That goes to show you how influential the president is. There are only 7 rounds in the draft, and he was. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But my point is, they try to politicize everything, and so take your news with a grain of salt. Try to see who the headline would benefit, and wait till you have evidence before you draw your conclusions. Riley.
President Putin announced a 3-day ceasefire in Ukraine starting May 8th, citing humanitarian reasons tied to Russia's World War II Victory Day celebrations. This is the second recent promise of a temporary pause in fighting amid increasing pressure from U.S. President Trump, who has expressed doubts about Putin's intentions for peace. Ukraine has not yet officially responded to the ceasefire announcement. Previous attempts at a truce, including the one-day Easter ceasefire, failed to fully hold despite temporarily lowering violence.
Again, it suits Putin to say this. He may think he's giving Trump something or making Trump look like he's having an influence on this whole thing. But Putin has never honored a ceasefire in the past. And if Putin's really eager to have a ceasefire, just stop attacking your innocent neighboring country. I mean, the one ceasefire that matters is Russians ceasing their fire and pulling out and following international law. So this is a kind of empty gesture from a liar who's never done these things, followed through in these things in the past, doesn't honor international law, doesn't care about peace. In fact, has sustained his entire presidency by periodically attacking people and showing how strong he is. This, again, should be taken with a boulder of salt, a salt mine worth of salt, a lot of salt. Minute.
At least 40 people were killed and over 1,200 injured in a massive explosion in Iran's largest port, Bandar Abbas, with fires still flaring as officials struggle to contain the damage. The blast, suspected to be caused by poorly stored chemicals, occurred amid U.S.-Iran nuclear talks, but Iran's government denied it had any military connection, calling foreign media claims part of enemy misinformation. The incident highlights ongoing safety issues in Iran's industrial infrastructure, drawing criticism from the president of Iran over dangerous overcrowding of containers at the port.
Yeah, that sounds credible to me. Again, this seems to be a theme of this particular episode, which is, how much of the news is what people say it is. But sounds to me a little bit more like the devastating explosion that took place in the port of Beirut a while back. The ports where you bring together large amounts of chemicals, large amounts of things that could possibly detonate, and where the facilities are, sometimes not managed as they should be, can result in this kind of thing. There's another big story today, by the way, that's just sort of breaking as we are doing this podcast. But a massive power outage struck Spain and France and Portugal, and maybe some small part of France was back on by the time we did this. But got a message from our friend David Sandalo, who hosts the Energy Climate and AI podcast that we do. He said, we're sitting here, no power, and don't know when it's going to come back on. I think he's actually on the board of an energy company in Spain. So if he doesn't know when it's going to come back on, neither does anybody else. Do we know why this has happened? No. But it is apparently proving to be a giant disruption in southwestern Europe. Riley?
Catholic cardinals have set May 7th as the start date for the conclave to elect a successor to Pope Francis, allowing extra time for informal meetings to build consensus. While many cardinals support continuing Francis's pastoral focus, conservatives aim to steer the church back to traditional doctrines, creating underlying tensions. Despite differing views, cardinals from around the world expressed hope for unity as they prepare to choose the next pope.
If you can't wait till May 7th, this is a good time to catch up on The Conclave. Very good movie of the past year. John Lithgow, Ray Fiennes, Stanley Tucci. Some people say it's a little bit more political version of what goes on in these things, but others said it was possibly, accurate. Of course, we don't know what's going to happen here, but Pope Francis picked, I think, 70% of the cardinals that are attending the meeting, maybe 80%. So his influence over the outcome will be significant. There's some talk about whether they'll go back to having an Italian pope. My sense is that the fastest growing region of the world for the church is Africa. Asia is also important. Branching out, as they did with Francis, to Latin America, making it more of a global enterprise, seems probably in the interests of the church. But I can tell you with a high degree of confidence here that I don't really know anything about the inner workings of the Catholic Church. And so this is just speculation based on what I've read in the newspaper. But Riley or Minute, perhaps you are more expert in the workings of the College of Cardinals.
I know less than both of you because I haven't even seen Conclave, so I don't know anything.
Yeah, I was going to say all of my education is from watching Conclave.
Yeah, when I was a kid, there was a movie that was sort of before my time when I was a kid, but I saw it once when I was like in high school. It was called like The Red Shoes or something like that. The Shoes of the Fish. I don't know. But anyway, the point is it was about the becoming Pope. And there was, it was sort of like Conclave because it was kind of like the intrigue of becoming Pope. And I was watching it and, I was like, wow, that's cool. These cardinals, they're like princes. It's like, I'd like to be one of those. I think that would be really cool to become Pope. And then I was like, there are no Jewish boys from New Jersey becoming Pope. This is probably not a realistic aspiration. But I got caught up in it in a minute. I mean, watching Conclave, it does that to you.
Well,
like,
I will say, there is a documentary / drama film that came out in 2013 called The Jewish Cardinal, which is about...
So I have a shot?
That's what I'm saying. He was the son of a Polish Jewish immigrant who maintained his Jewish cultural identity while being a Catholic cardinal. So there's hope for you in this community.
And Jesus, Jewish. I mean, I imagine a lot of Jesus's followers, like the apostles, must have been Jewish to start out with. So don't I have a shot?
I think so.
Thank you.
Sounds right.
But this movie is actually very good if you wanted to watch it. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Sounds right. Well, in the Renaissance period, you got to be Pope by like paying off a big chunk of money. And a lot of the people who were popes were like dating their sisters and having all sorts of horrible shit go down. All you have to do is watch The Borgias, a mediocre historical TV series, but I watch all the historical TV series. I mean, if it's a if they're costumes, I watch it. I watch it alone because my wife has got after a career of doing opera, she has a deep allergy to costume dramas. But, there were some bad popes there. So, the rules have changed over time. I think we can elevate this discussion a bit by noting that Pope Francis, elevated the church, made it more pastoral, made it more about taking care of and lifting up the disenfranchised in society, which seems to me more in keeping with the general thrust of the message of Jesus. So, in a world in which there's a lot of bad news, he sort of seemed to be nudging things in a positive direction, imperfectly, but in a positive direction. Anyway, that's it. It's Monday. We're off. The week has begun. I don't know what's going to happen this week, but I'll tell you one thing, and I say this with a high degree of confidence. Although we begin this week in April, which was a sort of rainy, cold month, we're going to end this week in May. And I guarantee you, within weeks, one of you guys is going to be complaining about how hot it is here.
It's going to be me already because my building's AC isn't on yet, so I'm sitting here melting away.
So wait a minute. The walls in your building are full of dead rats, and the building has no AC.
At least they're dead and not alive now. So,
Yeah,
we're moving in the right direction.
yeah.
But
Well,
we'll get AC in the next couple weeks. But right now, I've got my tower fan sitting behind me, just blasting me with air all day.
somebody's got to find. Like, if you're out there listening and you know of a good apartment in Washington for Riley, please contact us on the Discord or something. Help this guy out. The stories are breaking my heart. Anyway, we will, in keeping with the prior story, light a candle for you, Riley. And we'll be back tomorrow. And there'll be all sorts of cool podcasts from us later in the week because that's what we do. We're cool. So that's why you should be a member of the DSR network. Sign up, join us, be cool yourself. Anyway, until then, thank you, Riley. Thank you, Minna. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Have a great week. Bye-bye.